Is it that time again? I think it is. Hello friends, and welcome back to yet another installment of my Dota 2 strategy series that I've been doing for, I don't know what, maybe a year and a half? Hell, maybe it's been 2 years by now. Christ, I'm so lazy sometimes. Anyway, all that being said, once again, thank everyone so much for your support. Without it, I probably would not be making this video right now. I know it's been about 2 months since I made my last one, so once again, thank you. You really do make all the difference with the comments you leave, and yeah, I really appreciate that. So anyway, aside from all that stuff, I'm going to be making a video about a hero that I think is kind of not represented too well, Bane. I think that Bane is actually one of the strongest and most balanced supports in the entire game. That being said, he actually is seeing a fair amount of competitive play at the time of making this video. And if you're not familiar with my series, I'm going to go and spell it out to you. I'm going to be making this video to show you the essentials of playing the hero, the things that you need to know to have a good time with them, and what you should be looking for generally just in the gameplay of what you're going to be doing with the hero. So, all that being said here, I am going to go ahead and just take a moment and slow the video down. By that I mean I'm going to pause it. And I'm going to quickly talk just about Bane's 4 main skills. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I'm going to go into much further detail as the video goes along and as I show the skills to you and how you should actually be using them. That being said, Bane is typically played as a support hero. However, he can also be played as a rather effective mid. I'm going to be going into more detail about that as the video progresses over Bane's strengths and weaknesses. But if you're not familiar with this hero, I do want to take a quick minute and go over his 4 skills in just some rough detail and go over them in greater detail as the video goes on. Bane's first skill, Enfeeble, will lower the attack damage on a targeted unit. Now, what's really nice, I'm actually going to start it back up so you're not incredibly bored while I'm explaining all this. What is really nice about Enfeeble is that this skill is really potent even from level 1. This is going to do a flat attack damage reduction on the targeted unit. This is typically used on carries that are right-clicking you and you don't want them to hurt you as much. It's really, really good for that. However, what Enfeeble is also incredibly useful for is for denying last hits in lane. Let's take a look at an example of what I mean by that. Let's say if I cast Enfeeble on this bear, and by the way, I think actually it might be a bug at the time making this video that you actually can do this, but if I cast Enfeeble on the bear at level 1, it does a 30 attack damage reduction. That means the bear is going to hit for 3 damage. Pretty good ability. It's one of Bane's definitely underrated abilities. I decided to take it at level 1 here, which honestly I think is kind of a mistake. But before I get into that, once again, I'm going to talk about the rest of his abilities first. Yeah, I'm destroying this Rubick, which is kind of fun. But like, if I cast Enfeeble on the Rubick, he does 19 damage. On the Lone Druid, 20 damage. You get the idea. This is incredibly strong early in the game, and it scales up to 120 damage, which is pretty respectable in and of itself. Bane's second skill, Brain Sap. This is pretty straightforward. This does a pure damage nuke, which also heals Bane for the same amount. Now, one thing I do want to point out about this skill is, let's say you have it at level 4 and it does 300 damage. If I cast it on a target that has less than 300 health, let's say I cast it on a target that has, 50 health and it's I get the kill that way, it's still going to heal Bane for that same amount. That's kind of a useful thing. May not be incredibly valuable knowledge, but just kind of a cool thing to know. And Nightmare, this is one of Bane's signature skills. This ability actually does warrant a fair amount of discussion because it makes Bane a fairly unique hero. Nightmare is an incredibly long duration. Even from level 1, it's 4 seconds, which most other disables in the game can't even claim to have that much at their maxed out level. This is a unique disable in that it puts the targeted unit to sleep. And the targeted unit can be woken up if you attack it or if they take damage from another source other than HP removal. So what I mean by that is that if I cast Nightmare on a target and if someone right-clicks them, it's going to wake them up, but it's also going to pass the Nightmare to the targeted that right-clicked them. However, if a person casts a spell on that target, or say they take damage from an AoE ability, or basically damage from most any other ability aside from just a regular right-click, they're going to wake up from the Nightmare and the Nightmare will not transfer. There's a lot of nuances to this ability, which I'm going to talk about and hopefully demonstrate throughout the video. A couple really quick things before I move on from this. Whenever you cast this on a target, whether it be friendly or enemy, they have 1 second of invulnerability, so you can actually use this to dodge abilities, which is pretty nice. Pretty clutch. Not the easiest way to use the ability, but it can be nice. This also does damage. Not a whole lot. I think it does 140 damage at level 4. But this also means that you can deny yourself with this ability, which is pretty nice. Or you can deny an ally, or you can kill an enemy with it. It's not much damage, but it does count. By the way, don't take free tower damage like that. That's really bad. I'm actually misplaying quite a bit here in just the earlier stages of the game, but I will talk about why I feel that way after I talk about Fiend's Grip. This ability is sick, and why I like Bane so much. I really do like Bane. He's an interesting hero in that he's not the easiest to play. I do want to warn people that are fairly new to the game that this is not a hero that you really want to get your feet wet with. However, it's a hero that I feel like people need to understand how he works, and I do encourage people to actually have a good understanding of how to play him so that if you do, you'll be able to. He's really strong, but what I mean by that is all four of his abilities, you need to know when and how to use them. But Bane's ultimate, Fiend's Grip, think of this kind of like... It's kind of like Pudge's ultimate, except it has a longer range, it does more damage, and it drains mana. This ability is extremely good. Fiend's Grip goes through BKB, so it goes through Magic Immunity, and it deals quite a lot of damage. Matter of fact, it deals 1,075 damage at level 3 and 500 some odd damage at level 1. That is a lot. This ability does a ton of damage, and it locks down a target for a very respectable amount of time. 5 seconds is an incredibly long disable. So play Bane if you want to be the absolute king of disables and the king of crowd control, because he is damn good at that. Now, all that being said, I actually do want to talk about the game in general right now, and a couple of mistakes I made right off the bat. You notice that I'm laning with a Slark. Slark is an extremely potent hero at early levels, particularly levels 3 and 4. What I mean by that is that Slark has 2 nukes, Pounce, and Dark Pact on top of his Essence Shift. Well, Essence Shift is awesome, but Slark can do a lot of damage from very early levels. I can do a lot of damage from very early levels. You notice, even though I skilled Enfeeble, I haven't even used it once yet. That's a mistake. What I should have done here is I really should have taken 2 levels in Brain Sap and had 1 level in Nightmare by level 3. And just to kind of demonstrate what I mean by that, I'm going to go and slow the video down real quick once again. Say I had level 2 Brain Sap, 160 pure damage. Slark. The typical build for Slark is to have 2 levels in Pounce and maybe 1 level in Shift or Dark Pact by level 3, but let's just take Slark as he is right now. 70 damage plus an additional 75 from his Dark Pact, so that's 140 there. On top of my 160, that's about 300, not counting right clicks. If we were to go on either of these guys, they would be dead right now if I had another level in Brain Sap. Enfeeble is great, but the problem with it is that it has a high mana cost. All of Bane's abilities have a relatively high mana cost. While Bane is not a hero that suffers from a terribly small mana pool, he does not have abilities that are really spammable. For example, like you've got someone like, well, this is an extreme example, but say like Bristleback, who you can actually use your abilities with some impunity and not have to worry about your mana pool a great deal. Bane's abilities are not that forgiving. You really have to make sure you manage your mana well. Now, you'll probably notice, and a lot of you Bane diehards are probably screaming at me, why didn't you buy a Soul Ring? Well, I'll explain that. Soul Ring is extremely powerful on Bane. And if you're not familiar as to why, it's because you can Soul Ring, you can Brain Sap. It's pretty much free. Okay, I'm going to pause it real quick right here I'm actually going to wrap up that discussion real quick, but something very, very important happens here, and I want to explain. It's my phone vibrating. To hell with that thing. Something very important happens here, and I want to make sure that I explain it in detail, but before I do, I want to finish my discussion on Soul Ring. Soul Ring on Bane is incredibly potent. 150 HP to gain 150 mana. This means that at level 2 Brain Sap, it's completely free. You use the 150 mana at level 2, but you also gain 160 HP. Not only do you actually gain more health than what you lost off the Soul Ring, but you're damaging an enemy for 150 pure damage. Soul Ring on Bane is incredibly potent. The reason that I did not go Soul Ring on Bane this game is because I opted to get fast boots. I feel like that my Slark and I working together is going to be more potent than if I spent the 800 gold on a Soul Ring. I feel like if I can work up the additional 1,000 gold to pick up Arcane Boots on top of the regular Brown Boots, Slark and I are going to be able to roam the map and completely destroy everybody. Bane is an extremely powerful ganker, and you should play this hero in a very active role throughout the early to mid game. If you don't, you'll find that while he still retains his usefulness into the late game, if you don't make your presence known throughout the first 10 to 30 minute mark, then the hero is not going to have quite as much impact. You need to be very active with this hero. Yet again, another reason why I like him so much. Bane is awesome. This guy is a lot of fun. Now, something really important happens here. I'm going to explain why. I've used my Nightmare on the Lone Druid. Now, this is awesome because Nightmare is an excellent setup for abilities that are hard to land, namely Slark's Pounce. If Slark is not directly on top of a target, this is not the easiest ability to land. Other abilities that are good examples of this are things really nobody here has really good examples, but let's say like Mirana's arrow is another really good example of this. I nightmare a target, Mirana can land an arrow, no problem, easy as pie. Or another good example of this is a Pudge hook. If I nightmare a target, let's say like Pudge comes and gets the rune here, I say, okay, I'm going to nightmare Lone Druid, Pudge walks up here, and he's got a free hook right here. Really, really easy. Nightmare is an extremely good setup ability, and it's also a great ability for just shutting down someone you flat out don't want to deal with in a team fight. Now, something important is going to happen here. I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to start the video back up. Slark right-clicks the hero before he actually uses the ability. This is what I was talking about before. With Nightmare, if you right-click a target, it's going to transfer the Nightmare to you. However, if Slark would have used his Pounce to jump onto the target instead, the Nightmare would have been completely cancelled and would have just simply disappeared, and Lone Druid would have been in a lot of trouble right now. But as it stands, the best move that I can do is I can right-click Slark and transfer the Nightmare to myself. The reason being is because whenever Bane himself is Nightmared, you gain a new ability called Cancel Nightmare. You can cancel a Nightmare off of yourself at any time, which is really, really useful. So this gank, while it probably would have resulted in a dead Lone Druid, now unfortunately is resulting in quite a bit of embarrassment for us. But no slight to the Slark. I do want to say this is a relatively low skill level game, just from the players. I'm sorry, but you really should know not to do this. That's why I'm making this video. If you're not familiar with Bane and how his abilities work, this won't happen to you. So again, thank you for watching, and I hope this helps you out. So we're going to unpause here, and I'm going to speed it back up as well. And unfortunately, Slark does. That's what I'm talking about. You notice how Slark missed his Pounce, or otherwise it would have been an absolute guaranteed hit. There's no way he would have missed that. And that would have been an absolutely dead... You saw how low the Lone Druid's health got just from that alone. He practically died. He's already healed halfway off a Tango, so that would have been a guaranteed kill and a guaranteed first blood. Lanes like Slark Bane might seem kind of weird, but don't underestimate it. If Slark can have a guaranteed setup for his combo, you're in a lot of trouble. And Bane does an immense amount of damage at early levels. This pure damage should not be underestimated. 160 pure damage, that translates roughly to... let's say like roughly about 200 magic damage. Considering I don't have to worry about magic resist, that's a really strong nuke. Slark's a good guy. He gives me a clarity here. We should have been aggressive a little bit earlier on than we should have by now, because at any time from I say like level 3 onwards, level 2 is maybe a little hopeful, but level 3 onwards, I can walk up to any of these guys and nightmare them. That's a pretty good pounce on him. I'm going to walk up and I'm up to brain sap to take the kill. Now, what I really didn't want to have happen there is to take the kill from the Slark. Bane also has some of the best voice lines in the game. God, I really like this hero. He's tough to play, but he's awesome. But anyway, what I really didn't want to have happen here is I wanted Slark to get the first blood, but in retrospect, I should have brain sapped immediately, because it means that the Slark may have lived. If you're ever in... If you have any doubt that... Basically what I'm trying to say is don't worry about trying to steal the kills from the carry, because really, at the end of the day, a kill is a kill. And the people that are saying, oh my god, you stole my kill, chaos, 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 don't worry about those people. Unless it's completely blatant, then, well, worry about it. Doing little things like I just did there, too, is I told the Queen of Pain of her voice chat, hey Queen, I got mana boots, come get it! That helps a lot. Like, just little things like that just will make a massive improvement in your gameplay. It really, really helps. But, again, like I was saying, don't worry about stealing kills from a carry. The only time I mean when it's obvious is, like, you have 4 people attacking one guy, and then Zeus uses his ulti from across the map and takes the kill. Like, don't do that. But in a situation like that, I should have brain sapped right away and just secured the kill so that maybe Slark could have gotten away. Now, what the Slark and I are doing right now is we know there's a Nature's Prophet on the other team. We want to go kill him. So he's going to pounce into Dark Pact, into Brain Sap. Look at all that damage. And what I'm doing here is I'm not right-clicking. That's a situation where I know that the Slark is going to be just fine, so I'm going to let him do his thing, and I don't have to take the kill from him. That's a great example of where I know almost for certain that the kill is secured, and I don't have to contribute to it. I can let Slark get it. He needs the farm more than I do. Slark is a hero that can snowball to a very, very high degree. Both of us are level 6 right now, so we're definitely in our sweet spot. And basically, my game plan here is I'm going to follow this Slark wherever he goes. He and I are a strong enough ganking combo that we can give enough room to the other heroes on the map Namely, actually, we have a little bit of action going on down here, so I'm going to switch player perspective. And I'm going to pause right here. Okay, let's take a look at the scenario we have in front of us right now. We've got a Shadow Fiend here, a little bit below half health, 2 heroes below half health, and... excuse me. So they're going after this guy, but Rubick is coming in to try to do some damage. What I do immediately, and you can see I'm about to do it, is I want to make sure this Rubick cannot get here to help them in any way, because Enfeeble could make or break this kill. I mean, it doesn't look all that close, but you have to understand that the Shadow Fiend here is, he's level 8, he can do a lot of damage with full stacks of souls on Necromastery. It's only level 2, mind you, but he can do a lot of damage through raises and Necromastery. Shadow Fiend does a lot of damage from early levels. I want to make sure this Rubick cannot get in here and ruin the fun. The only way they're going to be able to stop me is if the Ember Spirit goes to his Remnant and he uses that to stop me. However, well, I'm going to take that gamble, so it's going to start it back up. Player perspective, and immediately ult the Rubick. So you can see, because I'm ulting the Rubick, they can go on the Shadow Fiend and kill him with impunity. Now what this means for me is that I unfortunately do have to give up my life, but I'm the only one that died. Look how low they both got. Hell, the Slark was at half health whenever I paused the game and went to that fight. Keeping targets out of fights is Bane's specialty. And to summarize things, and I'm probably going to repeat this a couple times throughout the video, Enfeeble the guy that's right-clicking you, Brain Sap the guy you want to kill, Nightmare the target you really don't want to have to deal with, and Fiend's Grip the guy that you really want to make him hate his own life. That is the way that you should approach Bane. You want to enfeeble the guy that is going to be in the fight, he's right-clicking, and you want to shut him down. A great example of this game would be the Shadow Fiend, Nature's Prophet, if he requires some right-click damage, like say, if he picks up a Desolator or a Sheep Stick, or just anything that gives him a lot of right-click damage. And Lone Druid's Bear is a great example of this too.
Radiant's mid tower.
Waste of a Nightmare there, by the way, really didn't accomplish anything. I do really want to emphasize conserving mana on Bane, that's very, very important. His abilities take a lot of mana to use, and especially if you don't have mana boots. Thankfully, I do have quite a few kills. Well, 2 kills. 2-1-1. I have a couple of kills by this point in the game. I did get First Blood, so I have a little bit more gold than other Banes might have at this point. But if you haven't picked up a kill by about 10 minutes in the game playing as this hero, things are probably not going all that well for you. Bane is a support that should be played very aggressively.
Could use a hand.
One thing I do want to point out here, you might be wondering, well, why aren't you Nightmare in this guy? It's because my Fiend's Grip is just about off a cooldown, and if I go... oh, I can't see the ranges while I'm paused, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is that the range between Nightmare and Fiend's Grip is considerable. Fiend's Grip actually has... wow, I hit him from a long way away. Fiend's Grip actually has quite a bit longer range than Nightmare. It looks like it has maybe 200 or 300 more range than Nightmare does. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. If you're trying to chase a target, just Fiend's Grip. You might not get close enough to get a Nightmare. This ability does have quite a long cooldown at 100 seconds, but it's worth getting a kill like that. Don't worry about being conservative with this. Where you do need to worry about being conservative is if they have something like a Tidehunter or a Sand King on the other team, and you can easily interrupt your ultimate. I'm going to come down here and see if I can help these guys out at all. Again, I'm going to Nightmare the Shadow Fiend, because who really wants to deal with a double damage Shadow Fiend? That's going to allow the tree and I to deal with the Ember Spirit as we please. The reason I'm not enfeebling here quite yet is because if I stop for even a second, I fear that the Shadow Fiend might simply kill me. And thankfully, Tree using his ulti, he was able to save me there, but he did give up his own life. Go back in, see if I can help the Slark at all. Gonna blow a Brain Sap here. Now look at that damage. That, like, wow. That you see what I mean by how pure damage really, really helps. And that's going to be another kill for our Slark. So even though we did give the Shadow Fiend a triple kill, not a terrible exchange for us, and a fairly good demonstration of how you should be thinking of using Bane's abilities. Again, I Nightmare the double damage Shadow Fiend because I'm like, okay, that is not something we want to have to deal with. A guy right-clicking us for like 200 damage, nope. And at level 3 Nightmare, well, take a nap for 6 seconds and I'll see you when you wake up. This ability is so strong, and it's really frustrating when you're on the enemy team and you have it casting on you.
Guess what's happening to Dire's bottom tower.
And by the way, one really nice thing about Slark, and you should always remember this as a support, is if you have a Slark on your team, his Shadow Dance will shut down if he's near a ward. And earlier, And I really wish the voice communication would transfer over to these replays. I feel like you guys are actually missing out on quite a bit. I really should do some live games sometimes so you can get an idea what it's really like. This Lark said, hey, my Shadow Dance shut down because they have a ward here. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy sentries. And ever since patch 1. Oh god, that was too easy. That was way too easy. This is why Fiend's Grip is so powerful. A 5-second complete shutdown. Not a lot they could do about that. The Shadow Fiend gets close at all and the guy just dies. But anyway, ever since patch 6.79, buying sentries just to kill observer wards is really strong. Let's go and just talk about some general support stuff real quick while we have a little bit of lull in the action. So a stack of sentry wards is going to cost you 200 gold, but remember, for every ward that you kill, you get 50 gold of that bag. So let's take like the scenario that just happened. I placed 2 sentries, 1 at each of the common ward spots, and what happened? I was able to get half my money back. So really, it only cost us 100 gold, and it denied the enemy team vision. Sentry wards are... they've always been important, but they're much, much more important now, especially since they give you a little bit of the money back. And the passive gold gain in patch 6.79 is really, really, really massive. There's a lot of videos that explain a lot of the differences in 6.79, which is one of the reasons that I myself didn't make one. Like guys like Purge have already made videos that go pretty in-depth about that stuff. Oh, and always do this. If you're full on mana, it doesn't mean you should wait to use your mana boots. Like, me using mana boots on Slark, a hero with a naturally low mana pool, that really, really helps. Slark and Bane are a match made in heaven. I know it may not seem that way, but if I can at least lock down a target or guarantee a pounce or make sure a target cannot hurt Slark, this guy is just going to tear everything apart. By the way, Slark's one of my favorite heroes. If you couldn't tell, I'd like to make a video over him pretty soon. Alright, we do definitely have a fight going on here. I'm going to go and use my Enfeeble immediately on the Rubick. I just want to make sure that we can take him out. Use a Brain Step to heal myself back up a bit. I'm going to use Enfeeble. I should have used Enfeeble in retrospect, probably on the bear, but I Nightmare the bear because, well, the bear is a perfect Nightmare target. We simply don't want to have to deal with it. The longer that bear is out of the fight, the better. Enfeeble the Shadow Fiend, so his right clicks don't do quite as much. Finish him off with a Brain Sap. And this is where I misclick and I Nightmare Friendly Creep. What'd I do to you, man? I meant to target the bear, obviously, but it doesn't always work out that way. In the heat of the moment, you know, your mouse flying across the screen, you're going to have a misclick or two, but that's okay. And as for itemization, you know my thoughts on Magic Wand. I feel like this is an extremely core item in just about anybody in the game. There's very few heroes I'm going to pick this up on, but especially on heroes that really need to be active and moving around the map, like Bane. And especially heroes that have high cost abilities like Bane. Like, popping a 10 charge magic stick, you know, bam, that might give me just enough mana to get off that other Nightmare or get off my ulti, something like that. This item progression on Bane, where I go into an Arcane Boots like this, I feel like is definitely more... it's definitely an ideal scenario, but I feel like Treant Protector is a little bit better holder for mech than Bane might be. And the reason I feel that way is because there's not really many other items that Tree's going to benefit from. I'm going to benefit much more from, say, a 4-staff than Treant Protector would, if that makes sense. Coming in here, I'm going to use my Nightmare. This is purely a setup. I say, okay, he's Nightmared. Come on in. And you can see by him using the explosive concoction on him that it does not transfer the night. I really should be right-clicking the Rubick right now. 4-staff away. And unfortunately, I get caught by the tail end of the Shadow Fiend ulti, and I died. What I should have done there is I should have ran down this way just to make sure I wouldn't get caught in it. Now, one other mistake I made there is I should have been right-clicking that Rubick the whole time to make sure he died as quickly as possible. Rubick is a pretty good hero against Bane, and the reason I say this is because if you steal any of these 4 abilities, they're really, really good on Rubick, especially your ultimate. Bane's ultimate, think of it not quite as devastating as like Enigma Black Hole, but in the same way that if you're using your ultimate, Rubick can steal it from you with impunity. All he has to do is wait for Bane to start waving his hands around in the air and like, oh, I can spell steal that, and look, now I have a 5-second disable that goes through BKB. You do not want to give this ability to Rubick. Very, very bad. That being said, in most fights, I'm actually going to be prioritizing the Rubick because I feel like if he actually takes this ability, I could be doing my team more harm than good. I could have went on the Nature's Prophet there, by the way, but I got scared, and I really wasn't sure what kind of backup he might have. But if I did, he would have died. Again, level 2 Fiend's Grip God, would that have been... That's 775 damage. And on top of a brain sap, yeah, he would have died. So if I were to just use a basic combo of Fiend's Grip and then Shift Q a brain sap, by the way, you can Shift Q brain sap to immediately brain sap after your ultimate ends, he would have died. No problem. And there's Rubick, and BAM! Nightmares. A little bit of a waste of the ultimate. And what I mean by that is that it's very, very unlikely that the Rubick would have escaped from that situation. Now, that being said, at that particular point in time, I knew that there was at least one hero bottom. Definitely keep in mind that I do not know... Like, the map is a little bit misleading at this point in the game because... You know, you don't see the X's while you're actually in the... You understand what I mean. I don't know the positions of the enemy, and watching a replay can be a little bit misleading, but I knew there was one enemy bottom, but that's all I knew. I wanted to make sure that if Rubick had backup waiting right behind him, we killed him, and we didn't get engaged in some really sloppy team fight and turn into like an odd 3v4. That's what I was mainly looking for. Ember Spirit trying to do some work on me here. I'm just going to Nightmare because I really don't want to deal with it. And it's time to get the hell out of here. I'm taking a lot of damage right now.
Radiant's top tower.
Shian's going to use his ulti just to slow him down a bit. By the way, Bane is really good against Ember Spirit. If you're having trouble against this hero, consider playing Bane. Bane has two things which completely crush Ember... Actually, pretty much anything he does crushes Ember Spirit, but your ultimate is really good against any hero that is extremely mobile. Ember Spirit... Weaver, Storm Spirit, guys like that. And Brain Sap is pure damage. That means that it goes through Ember Spirit Shield, because it only guards against magical damage. Really, really good. Force Staff to the trees there, and I'm gone. Now, one of Bane's key weaknesses is you have no pushing ability. That's really what makes the hero balance, in my view. You'll notice here I'm facing quite a big creep wave. I have absolutely no way to clear this by myself. I'm going to need help from my team. So Bane's... I feel like Bane is actually one of the more balanced heroes in the game, and I really like that about him. Force Staff is going to ensure this is going to be a really, really easy kill. Give it to the Slark, nothing wrong with that. And I'm just going to casually Brain Sap a tree to get my health back up. It's great for doing that. But anyway, yeah, Bane's push is very, very, very weak. He does not have the ability to kill creeps or push towers by himself. Necronomicon can be a very effective item for helping with that. And, just talk a bit more about itemization too. You notice I picked up a Ghost Scepter. This is not an item that I see picked up all that often, and it kind of makes me sad because Ghost Scepter is extremely underrated. Not just even the +7 all attributes is nice, but having a 4-second invulnerability to right clicks is extremely helpful. So we do have a fight going on here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my Enfeeble on the Spirit Bear immediately, just to make sure its right clicks don't do quite as much damage. And the only reason I Nightmare the Lone Druid here is I want to make sure that Slark has enough time to catch back up to him. And that is exactly what it's going to do. We got an Ember Spirit coming in here. I'm going to throw my Enfeeble on him just to make sure his right clicks don't do quite as much. Brain Sap for a little bit more damage. And things are getting a little bit scary now. I think it's time to get out of here. Use the Force Staff to try to escape. And I'm being chased by an invisible Shadow Fiend. Now, of course, I don't know this at the time, but... and what I tried to do here, by the way, is I've tried to deny myself using Nightmare, but what I should have done is I should have reacted faster, used the Ghost Scepter to protect me while I was inside of the trees, and then Force Staff out when it came off a cooldown, so bit of a misplay by me. Oh yeah, you can bounce a Nightmare around, by the way. I can still hear it. Where is it? Oh, it's on the Necro Creep. Anyway, yeah, what I should have done there is just use the Ghost Scepter immediately, hope that buys me enough time to Force Staff out of the trees and get off another 2-charge magic one. So a little bit of a misplay, but you see how I almost denied myself a Nightmare, but ironically enough, I was killed by my own Brain Sap from Rubick, so that's no fun. But this itemization I'm going for here with the Force Staff and Ghost Scepter, Force Staff mainly because I want to avoid a very specific things here. If Lone Druid entangles me with his bear, I can Force Staff out of it. If Prophet entangles me, or sprouts me with his trees, I can Force Staff out of it. If I know Shadow Fiend is about to blow up, I can Force Staff out of that. Blink Dagger is a really, really powerful item on Bane. However, I feel like this particular game, Force Staff was a little bit of a safer choice. Blink Dagger would have been better if I'm not afraid of being the initiator and I'm not afraid of dying instantly. If I can go in, kill a target, and get out without having to worry about it. But in this particular game, there's way too much that can kill me way too quickly. Too many things that are going to make me ineffective in a team fight. Not to say you can't get both Blink Dagger and Force Staff. I feel that's a little ambitious, just in my opinion, but if you find yourself in absolute Bane baller tier status, that's not a bad idea.
Radiant's bottom tower.
And Ghost Scepter for obvious reasons. Ghost Scepter is going to protect me against Lone Druid and his Bear, Shadow Fiend in his right clicks, and Nature's Prophet in his right clicks, which really only leaves the Rubick and the Ember Spirit that can do considerable damage to me. Ghost Scepter, I feel, is a very, very wise choice against a team like this. So if you haven't picked up Ghost Scepter often in past games that you've played, be sure to do so. It really, really helps. One other quick thing I want to talk to you about as a support is I'm really making sure I get all the last hits I can here. And the reason I'm doing that is because, well, think of it this way. You're not going to have many other chances to farm, right? You're going to be deferring farm to the Slark, the Queen of Pain, the Alchemist. To hell with a tree, he can jungle, which is what he's doing. But you're going to be deferring farm to everybody else, so I don't want to miss any last... And I miss last hits, but you don't want to be missing any last hits that you can avoid. So I feel like knowing how to last hit is important no matter what role that you're playing. And like a way to emphasize this is I now have enough gold to buy that Ogre Club, and if I wouldn't have got those last hits earlier, I simply wouldn't have. Like, it can make all the difference. I'm going to go and ulti the Rubick immediately because I hate that guy. He's going to blow up. Got a bit of a team fight going on in our hands here. Alchemist might be in a little bit of trouble, but I really should have Nightmare there. That's actually a pretty key mistake. I was in range to Nightmare instead of using an Enfeeble on the Prophet. It's going to make sure the Nature's Prophet can't get back in the fight for a while. Enfeeble has quite a long duration. One other important thing I want to point out about Enfeeble is that you cannot dispel this ability. Again, I'm going to Nightmare the Prophet just to keep him out of the fight for a moment. Good stun. Very, very good stun. Brain Sap just to do some damage here. All my abilities are currently on cooldown. I can contribute some right clicks, but I think I'm going to back up. I think that wand had close to 15 charges. Maybe it even had 15. Get my health back up. Nightmare the Bear because I simply don't want to deal with it. Using Enfeeble on the Shadow Fiend to make sure he can't right click. And I used Ghost Scepter a bit prematurely there, but it made sure that these guys couldn't right click me. And now I'm on the run. So, during that fight, I feel like I used my abilities to fair degree, except on the Nature's Prophet right here. That was a mistake. Oh, and by the way, this ward spot is excellent. If you don't have the tier 1 tower down and your team has a fairly strong lead, this is an extremely powerful ward spot. Really, really, not very common, but just something to think about. Like, if you don't have the tier 1 tower down and you're trying to push through, this is really, really good. You can keep an eye on all their movements from right behind the tower. Really nice. Nightmare the Bear, because, hey, quit right-clicking my tower. Nightmare is so powerful for just saying, look, I really don't want to have to mess with you right now, so I'm going to put you to sleep. There's no other hero in the game that can do this to the same degree that Bane can. Very, very, very potent. We might have a little bit of a lull in the action here. I'm not entirely sure, but, yeah, looks like I'm just right-clicking right now. So, what I want to talk about now is, well, Bane is typically played in the support role. He really doesn't have to be. Bane can be played as an extremely strong mid. Let's take an example of what I mean. Like, let's say, you know, level 1 versus level 1 mid. Bane's Enfeeble, on top of having a bottle or a soul ring, that's a damage reduction of 30. Most heroes in the game don't start with more than around 45 to 50 damage. And, actually, we're going hard here. This is the power of Force Staff, guys. Being able to push yourself across like that and get off an ulti, it's going to be a guaranteed kill for us. So Shadow Fiend comes in, doing quite a bit of damage again. I'm just going to Nightmare the Bear. In a little bit of trouble here, but I'm going to Ghost Scepter because, hey, who wants to be inside of a bunch of trees with a bear? So Ghost Scepter to avoid some damage. And pretty good trade for us. Slark is going deep. He is going deep. I want to go in here and try to help him out as much as I can. Brain Sap to do some damage. And I'm trying to catch up to get a Nightmare off, but I'm just not quite fast enough. Oh, there it is. This is what I mean. It is the perfect setup ability. Like, alright, he's taking a nap. Come in, jump on him, and beat him to death with your shiv. God, I really, really like Bane. This hero is awesome. But anyway, so good team fight. Excellent team fight by us. And it's made possible by the fact that with something like a Force Staff or a Blink, you can push yourself across the river, use your ulti and say, team, and they'll come in and kill the guy, and things are all good. But Bane is an excellent mid.
Tower could use a little help.
Using Enfeeble at level 1 on another level 1 hero is so powerful because, again, most heroes don't start with more than about 40 to 50 base damage. What this means is they can't last hit. If they can't last hit, they can't get items, and you can deny about everything. One other nice thing about Bane, too, that I should have mentioned at the start of this video, and another reason that I like buying brown boots so early in this hero, is Bane hurts from level 1. Bane has like 50 or 51 base damage, which is a lot higher than most other heroes have. And if you're in a lane and you're right-clicking someone, they're going to feel it. Like most other supports, they start with, I don't know, 40 to 45 or so, but not Bane. He's around 50 or 51. That actually does make a huge difference. When this guy right-clicks you, you actually feel it. Not so much as the game goes on. Now, I'm going for a sheep stick here. I feel like a slight mistake... I say slight just because of just how I feel about it. Buying the Mystic stat first may not be the best option because even though I say Bane's right-clicks are strong, Bane is not a right-click hero. This is not what you rely on. You are not a right-click carry. I don't want to give that false impression either by saying so. But by buying the Mystic Staff, really sure I get an additional 25 intelligence, I get quite a bit of mana. But buying the Ultimate Orb first to at least get the plus 190 HP from the 10 strength may actually be a little bit stronger. And my reasoning for going a sheep stick here over something like an Aghs or a BKB or another item like that, or a Necronomicon, is because they actually do have some right-click carries that I feel are quite scary, and our Alchemist is not doing all that terribly well. So I want to make sure that I can shut down these guys if they do have a little bit more farm than we do, in comparison to our own right-click carries. That's what sheep stick is all about. Forcing the fight here at the tower. Without the lone druid, they're going to be in a lot of trouble again. I put the prophet to sleep. Don't want to have to mess with you, buddy. Unfortunately, Slark does miss his pound, so that kind of ruins that, but hey, that's okay. I'm going to enfeeble the necro creep because he's right-clicking me and it hurts. I don't like that. We're definitely going pretty deep here. I force-staffed the, I think I force-staffed the Slark there. I didn't really need to, but he's going to go down. And again, the power of Nightmare. If we had any follow-up to that, that Ember Spirit would have been dead as well. Ghost Spirit just to avoid some damage from the demons. Oh my god, the demons are killing me. These things are strong, by the way. Necro 3 is a good item. Like, yeah, don't underestimate these guys. They can do a lot of damage. Look at that. Look at that.
Bottom towers seem better
Jesus.
days.
Alright, I'm good now. But, anyway, going sheep stick here. I really want to do this because if I can sheep the Druid, the Shadow Fiend, or the Prophet, that is a massive reduction in the amount of damage that they can do to us. Let's take a quick look at the graphs here and just kind of see how the game is looking overall as a whole. We definitely have a very strong XP and gold lead, but the important thing to note here is that this game is far from over. What I mean by that is that our carry Alchemist is not doing all that terribly well, and that's okay. It's not a fault against the player, it's just that he hasn't had quite as good of a game as we had. Now, while our scores are definitely inflated, there is absolutely no way we're going to be able to stand up to a Shadow Fiend, Nature's Prophet, Lone Druid if the game goes on long enough. This is also a really key part of playing heroes like Slark, Bane, Queen of Pain, is if the game does go, say, to, I don't know, like the hour mark, we're not going to be able to win this because they're just going to be able to right-click us to death. The Lone Druid is doing... He really doesn't have much at this point in the game. That's an extremely late Radiance, but he does have it, so that's something to keep in mind.
One of them bottom towers.
The Shadow Fiend, Shadowblade BKB, that's pretty reasonable, not terrible. He's doing okay. And the Nature's Prophet, that Necro 3 is pretty scary. If he's able to push and get his team in gold advantage by taking out our towers, that's good. Oh, that poor Rubick. Okay, that's an example where I really didn't need to blow... excuse me. Oh my god, what's going on here? Sorry, I got confused. That's a really good example where I really did not need to blow my ultimate. That Rubick was dead regardless. Slark hit his pounce. There's no way he's going to get out of it. So, not a good way to use your ultimate there. It's on a very, very long cooldown, and it can absolutely make or break an engagement too. So using the Enfeeble on the bear, and yeah, take a look at that. God, he's hitting for like around 30, 40-ish damage right now because my minus 120 is completely nullifying that Radiance. Minus 120 damage is nothing to laugh at. It's immense. That is a lot of damage reduction. Might have a fight going on here, and it looks like the Ember Spirit is going to go in and try to go in. Unfortunately, I don't have my ultimate right now, so I wasn't able to stop that Shadow Fiend. Gonna go ahead and Nightmare the Spirit Bearer. Yet again, just so we don't have to deal with the damage it's going to put out. Throw an Enfeeble on the Nature's Prophet to nullify his right-click damage as well. Let's take a look at that. So see, he's doing kittens for... He's doing less damage right now than a level 1 hero does. Being level 14 and having a Necro book. Really, really powerful. Slark's going ham, gives 1,255 gold. Man, that is a huge part of patch 6.79, is people give a lot more gold than they die, and, you know, given the Shadow Fiend 1,200 gold, that's kind of scary. You know, that's enough for him to buy a crit. So, even though this game might look a little one-sided, it is nowhere near as one-sided as it might appear. Don't be deceived by that. They could easily outcarry us. Our Alchemist at the point, his farm is okay, but definitely not where an Alchemist should be at the 31-minute mark. But we've been able to make up for that by keeping the other heroes on the enemy team down, so we should be okay. Killing the Spirit Bearer is awesome, by the way, 300 gold. That's a lot. And not only that, too, but he can't resummon that for 60 seconds now. We weren't aware of this at the time, but this would be an excellent time to go ahead and try to make some other action happen. Try to push, try to take a barracks, something like that. Not having Spirit Bearer is a huge, huge detriment. I'm going to go Scepter to make sure this guy can't right-click me to death. Good stun. Look at that damage. That is so effective versus squishy heroes like Ember Spirit. Incredibly powerful. But it's time for me to go home because I'm really hurt. Bane is such a good counter versus this guy. I imagine right now he really doesn't have more than... I don't know, I'm going to say the Ember Spirit has around maybe 1,100-ish health is what I'm going to guess he's at right now, given his items and the level he's at. And being able to take out close to a quarter of that, or more than a quarter of that with one ability, that is really, really strong. And again, his shield will not block that because it is pure damage, so that's really, really good. And I've got my Sheep Stick up, which is great. Now, this is the point where Bane becomes really fun. What I mean by that is I can effectively shut down 4 heroes at once. I can Enfeeble somebody, like say the Prophet is a good target for this, where his right-clicks do next to nothing. I can Nightmare a target if I simply don't have to deal with them, like say the Ember Spirit or the Lone Druid. I can use my ultimate on a target we want to kill, like the Shadow Fiend. And I can use my Sheep Stick on someone else, like that Rubick that I've been making miserable all game. He has Alchemist ulti, that's funny. So, Bane having a Sheep Stick or a Yule Scepter, you know, kind of the cheap man's alternative, that Bane can shut down more heroes in the game at once than any other hero. So, yet again, I know I've emphasized this quite a bit, but you want to play this guy if you want to be the absolute king of CC. The king of just shutting people down, because he is really, really good at that. Gonna try to go for a Roshan here. Before we... Oh, okay, the Slark is definitely going in deep. I'm going to use a Force Staff just to try to catch up a little bit. Turn the Shadow Fiend into a sheep. I'm going to go ahead and ulti the Rubick just so he can't steal the ability. Back off a second not to get caught by the Shadow Fiend ulti. Use Nightmare on the Lone Druid. I probably should have Nightmared the Bear in retrospect, because the Bear is going to do a lot more damage than the Lone Druid himself will. So not the best fight for us, unfortunately. I probably could use my abilities a bit better, but then again, the Slark went super, super ham there. That guy 1v5 for a minute, which is not the smartest option whenever you're about 35 minutes in and against a team composed of mostly carries. That's not the smartest thing to do. When the game rolls around this late, by the way, and you do have more than enough mana regen, you can use your Brain Sap to heal you. You can use Brain Sap on any creep, just anything you walk by, and it's really good for getting your HP back up. Bane really does not have to go back to base at this point in the game, which can be extremely helpful. And the reason, going back to an earlier statement too, the reason that I don't recommend this hero as much, I recommend anybody to play him, but I would not recommend an absolute beginner to the game to play him, just because the way that all these abilities interact with each other and deciding who to use them on, you need to be familiar with what the enemy heroes actually do. Like, you need to understand that Shadow Fiend is going to be their main source of damage. The Spirit Bearer is super tanky, but maybe you're not actually able to kill it, so maybe I should put that thing to sleep so it can't run around and root everybody. Maybe I should Enfeeble a target that's right-clicking us, you know, like the Prophet, the Shadow Fiend, the Bear, or, you know, most targets on their team are pretty good targets for that. But if you're not familiar with that, you're not familiar with the hero roles and what every hero does, Bane might not be as much fun for you, because you're not going to be sure how to use his abilities. But that being said, I still feel like he's one of the most balanced and probably one of the most underrated and most powerful supports in the game. Oh yeah, I remember this. Like, alright guys, it's time to smoke. Let's make something happen. This is what you call the I want to smoke, but nobody's really sure what they want to do tactic. And Queen of Pain and I are the only two that are smoked right now. Got the Tree Man following us, which is all good, but problem here is that we don't have the Alchemist, we don't have the Slark. They're a little bit too far away from us, so what that means is that we can't, say, go up into their jungle like the Queen grabs that double damage rune, which he... Jesus. Which he should have done anyway, but we weren't able to, say, make anything happen because we didn't do it cohesively as a team. And at this point in the game, where it can easily slide either way despite the score being 42-5, that's very, very important. Being able to maintain team cohesion and say, okay, here's a plan, this is what we're going to do, let's try it, let's smoke up, let's give it our best shot. And we did not have that at that particular moment in time, but that's okay. We got a lot of people grouping up mid here, so I would definitely say a fight is in the works. Alchemist working on Assault Heroes here. And Shadow Fiend is going for his Eagle Song, and his Butterfly, and he's not Chubby Far From, and he already does have his Eagle Song. Now, the Nature's Prophet, one thing I do want to point out, he's not really done a very good job with using this Necrobook effectively. What I mean by that is that he should really be like teleporting bottom and trying to push this tower down, but instead he's just kind of not really doing anything.
Trouble brewing.
That's bad. Don't do that. Whenever you go a build like this on a Nature's Prophet, you typically want to have like a Shadow Blade on top of a Necrobook and just hammer towers non-stop. They could have done a lot of damage to this tower by now. So big mistake that they didn't. And it looks like we're just kind of wandering around the jungle aimlessly. Not a lot is going on right now, so just to make sure things don't get boring, I'm going to speed the game up a bit here. Okay, and Invisibility is obviously a very good rune on a hero like this. Now, that being said, don't let Invis runes like give you a false sense of security at this point in the game, because it's very likely that a competent team is going to have sentries around the Rosh Pit, so there's a good chance they saw me pick this up. Just something to keep in mind. And I can't see this right now, but pretty much the entire enemy team is in front of me at the moment. Again, not a whole lot going on here, but let's speed it back up. And we're going to go and try to kill ourselves, Nature's Prophet. Turn him into a sheep. I realize that no one's going to be quite close enough to kill him yet, so I decided to use my ultimate. Arguably a mistake, because a Nightmare would have done the same thing. Definitely an early BKB by the Alchemist as well. Nice leap over the ledge, though. It's going to get a fight going. So that's going to work out in our favor. And unfortunately, I'm going to lose vision, so I'm not going to be able to Nightmare either of those targets. So what I mean by that's a waste of my ultimate there is that that Nature's Prophet wasn't going anywhere if I Nightmared him. If I Nightmared him, that would have given the Slark enough time to catch up and use Pounce, and he was 100% dead. There's no way he's getting out of that. So again, very long cooldown. I'm not going to be able to use a Nightmare the Shadow Fiend as an initiation. Turn this other guy into a sheep. Okay, that was the Jesus, that was the Ember Spirit making his life hell. That guy's going to blow up, get ourselves a bear kill, and at this point in the game, it's looking pretty secure. And we get a good kill on the Longer. The Shadow Fiend does buy back, but that was a great example of when not to be afraid and when to force staff in and get a fight going. They had two heroes down. The Shadow Fiend was there, seemingly by himself. Granted, even if he did have backup, they weren't vision, which means they had to have been like around back here somewhere. So by me force staffing up the hill and just using a Nightmare like that, that means my team can catch up and we just absolutely destroy the guy. Put Nature's Prophet to sleep for a minute. Oh god, the demons. I'm going to enfeeble the red demon just so it can't do anything. Yeah. That's how you get her done, boys. Alright, well, I'm surprised the game actually has this much left in it right now, but this is definitely a time we need to be taking racks and trying to end the game here. Overall, fairly good demonstration of how to play Bane. I do want to say that Bane is absolutely not one of my strongest heroes. I have a lot to learn playing this hero. That's another reason why I do like him quite a bit, is I feel that Bane's skill cap is actually quite high, in that your abilities have there's so much dynamism to them, as I guess a word that I would use. There's so many effective ways to use this hero that there's a lot to learn with him, and I definitely do not have even close to everything figured out. But This was a game where I feel like I was matched with particularly good heroes that are great to work with Bane. Slark being one. Slark is an excellent partner for Bane in that it guarantees that Slark is going to be able to jump on someone and just start eating them alive, which is always a good thing for a Slark. He's still living armor, that's always fun. Again, just to make sure you guys don't get bored, let's bring the video to a bit of a close here. We're going to go and take out a Roshan. Slayed that thing. And now we're going to go for the kill. And if I see anybody, I'm going to go on them. There's that Rubick. Bam! Taking out that Rubick, and God, look how much damage that does at level 3. Pretty insane. Getting a lot of hate myself here. Sheepstick, I go Scepter immediately as soon as I come out of Sheepstick. And if I did not do that, I'd probably be dead right now. Slark is getting in pretty deep here, but he's also getting quite a few stacks of Essence Shift going on, so he's getting pretty strong. But we're also all getting pretty low as well, and I think, no, he still has the Aegis of the Immortal. And I'm doing the dance like, oh god, I really want to help you, buddy, but I'm not sure what I can do for you. Trying to make his grand escape here. Gonna eat a Sprout by the Nature's Prophet, taking a lot of damage here. Nightmare the Bear so he can't catch up. Enfeeble the Lone Druid, so see, look how he does no damage when I enfeeble that guy. God, that is so strong. Yeah, he literally does no damage. It'd be nice if it healed you, right? And my best option there was a TP. Just get out of there. Yeah, that's a Scotty on Queen of Pain. Got him. Alright. So at this point in the game, I'm thinking, you know what, we need to finish this. We need some more push. So I'm going to pick up a Necro Book. Necro Book is a really effective item on Bane in that it plugs up one of his main holes in that you don't have a lot of pushing ability. The Necro Creeps are really, really powerful, and they can really supplement heroes like Bane that naturally can't push all that well. Or heroes that can push really well, like Nature's Prophet and Lycan is a very good item on them as well. Not only that, it also gives me a fair amount of HP too. I have more intelligence than I'll ever need at this point. But, you know, being able to right-click for almost 200 as a support hero is not a bad thing either, so definitely not something to sneeze at. Other items I could have considered this game, Aghanim Scepter is a very popular choice on Bane. I have mixed feelings about this, and I'm going to explain why I do. It upgrades, it will upgrade your ultimate to absurd levels. It gives you an additional 2 seconds on it, and it gives you considerably more damage and a lot more mana drain. Oh, by the way, this also drains mana. Forgot to mention that earlier on in the video, but Fiend's Grip does drain mana. Pretty cool way that it does that. I use my Sheepstick immediately on the Shadow Fiend to say, you know what, you're not even going to get your BKB off, you are now a pig. So, game is definitely over at this point, but excuse me. Picking up something like a Necro Book can be really, really strong. And take a look at the little Necro Creeps here if you're not familiar with what they do. It's not level 3 yet, but at level 3 this guy also gives True Sight, which is nice, but has a Mana Break, which think of it exactly like Anti-Mage's Mana Break. Does damage to any targets that have mana. And Last Will is really, really cool. This will do 600 pure damage to any target that kills him. This is really effective against heroes that can't control the damage that they're doing. Good examples of this are heroes like Gyrocopter. If he has a flat cannon going, if he accidentally kills one of those Necro Creeps, he takes 600 pure damage. That is not something to be underestimated. That's really, really nice. And I don't have one of the archers out here right now, but the archer gives an attack speed aura, and it also has a mana burn as well, I believe. Ag Scepter, I have some mixed feelings about on Bane. Couple reasons for that is because if you're stunned during your ultimate, this is not going to do you much good anyway, but it is nice, gives you quite a bit of health, gives you quite a bit of mana, but make sure they don't have abilities that can easily stun you before you use this. Damn. Alright, that is going to be game. And to finalize my thought on the Ag Scepter, I really feel like generally a Black King bar can be a little bit stronger on Bane than an Aghanim Scepter, but it depends on the team you're up against. Like, if you're against a Silencer or like a Tidehunter with a Blink, don't get an Ag Scepter because it's not going to help you. If you are against a team with a bunch of stuns, get a BKB. This team didn't have a lot of stuns. That's why this particular game, I'm going to go Scythe the Vyse. I feel comfortable doing this. I don't have to pick up a Black King bar. I feel like I can get off my ultimate pretty much every fight. They really only have 3 disables. They've got the Ember Spirit Bola, they've got Lone Druid Root, and they've got Rubick Lift, and that's really about all they have. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this. I hope this helps someone out there in how to play Bane effectively, and let's hope I make some more videos soon. Take care, everybody.